There is a quiet power in those who move through the world with calm certainty. It is not loud, it does not demand attention with shouts or spectacle, yet it commands a respect deeper than words. People feel it before they see it. They sense the weight of someone who is unshaken, someone who knows their worth, someone whose presence alone changes the air in the room. Today, I want to share with you 5 behaviors, simple, cold, unyielding, that when embraced, make people look at you differently, listen to you differently, and most importantly, respect you instantly. This is not about being cruel. This is about standing tall, with grace, with clarity, and with a strength that cannot be ignored. Respect begins in a quiet place, a place no one else can enter unless you open the door. It is born in the private conversations you have with yourself, in the way you speak to your own heart when the world is silent. Too many people walk through life waiting for applause, waiting for someone to tell them they are worthy, waiting for permission to stand tall. But the truth is simple and powerful. The world rarely respects the person who does not respect themselves. When you carry doubt about your own value, people can feel it, even if you never speak a word. There is something about a person who knows their worth that shifts the atmosphere around them. They do not need to raise their voice. They do not need to beg for attention. Their presence carries a quiet certainty that says, "I know who I am." And that certainty becomes a mirror in which others see you. When you respect yourself, you stop shrinking to fit into places that were never meant for your spirit. You stop explaining your existence. You stop apologizing for the space you occupy in this wide and complicated world. Respecting yourself also means protecting your dignity in moments when it would be easier to give it away. It means walking away from conversations that try to belittle you. It means refusing to laugh at jokes that insult your worth just to make others comfortable. Many people think strength is loud and aggressive, but true strength is often calm and unbending. It is the quiet decision to hold your standards even when others try to lower them. When you respect yourself, your boundaries become clear without you needing to build walls of anger. People begin to understand that your time is valuable, your energy is precious, and your presence is not something to be taken lightly. You do not chase validation because you already carry a deep understanding that your value was never meant to be voted on by strangers. And something remarkable happens when you begin to live this way. People who once overlooked you begin to notice you, not because you demanded their attention, but because your confidence speaks in a language that everyone understands. It is a language of calm eyes, steady posture, and words that are chosen carefully rather than thrown carelessly into the air. The world has always been drawn to those who stand firmly in their own identity, not arrogance, not pride that pushes others down, but a grounded self-respect that says, "I will not betray who I am to be accepted." That kind of confidence is rare, and rarity creates respect. So before you ask the world to honor you, honor yourself. Treat your dreams with seriousness. Guard your peace like something sacred. Speak to yourself with kindness instead of criticism. Because when a person truly respects themselves, they no longer need to chase respect from others. It arrives naturally, quietly, almost inevitably, like a shadow that follows wherever they walk. There is a quiet authority in the person who does not rush to fill every silence with words. In a world where voices compete to be the loudest, the most powerful presence often belongs to the one who speaks with restraint. Many people believe respect comes from talking more, explaining more, proving more. But wisdom understands something different. The fewer words you use, the more carefully people listen when you finally decide to speak. When someone speaks endlessly, their words begin to lose their weight. They scatter like leaves in the wind, touching everything but meaning very little. But when a person chooses their words with patience, those words land with purpose. They carry thought, intention, and quiet strength. People pause when you speak because they know you are not speaking just to be heard. You are speaking because something meaningful needs to be said. Silence, when used with confidence, is not weakness. It is a form of control. It shows that you are not desperate to prove yourself in every conversation. It shows that you are comfortable in your own mind, that you do not fear a moment of stillness between sentences. And there is something deeply powerful about a person who is not afraid of silence. It tells the world that your value is not measured by how many words you can produce, but by the clarity behind the words you choose. When you speak less, you begin to observe more. You notice the tone in people's voices, the small shifts in their expressions, the hidden meanings behind their sentences. While others rush to talk, you are learning. You are understanding the room, understanding the people in it, understanding the rhythm of the moment, and this awareness gives your words a deeper accuracy when you finally release them. There is also dignity in not explaining yourself to everyone. Not every opinion deserves your response. Not every misunderstanding deserves your energy. Sometimes the most powerful statement you can make is a calm silence. It sends a message without argument, without drama, without unnecessary noise. It tells people that you are not here to chase approval or defend your worth at every turn. And when you do choose to speak, let your words be steady and deliberate. Let them carry honesty instead of haste. Speak in a way that reflects thought rather than reaction, because words spoken slowly and carefully often travel farther than words thrown out in emotion. People naturally respect those whose words feel intentional. They sense the discipline behind your speech, the patience behind your pauses. Your voice becomes something others pay attention to, not because it is loud, but because it is rare. In the end, speaking less is not about becoming distant or cold. It is about understanding the value of your voice. Words are powerful tools, and powerful tools should never be used carelessly. When you learn to hold your words with patience and release them with purpose, something remarkable happens. The world begins to listen differently. Conversations slow down when you enter them, and your voice, calm and measured, begins to carry a weight that cannot be ignored. There is a certain kind of person who moves through life with quiet intention. You can see it in the way they walk into a room, in the way they listen before they speak, and in the way their actions seem guided by something deeper than impulse. They are not rushing, not stumbling through decisions, not allowing the winds of other people's opinions to push them from side to side. Every step they take feels deliberate, as if they understand exactly why they are standing where they stand. Too often people move without purpose. They react instead of choosing. They follow instead of leading their own direction. And when a person drifts through life like that, the world senses it. People begin to treat them casually, as if their presence is just another passing moment. But the person who acts with purpose carries a different energy. Their actions show that their time matters, their choices matter, and their life is not something they handle carelessly. When you begin to act with purpose, even the smallest things change. The way you speak becomes more thoughtful. The way you spend your time becomes more meaningful. You no longer give hours of your life to people who drain your spirit or to habits that weaken your focus. Instead, you move with a quiet awareness that every moment is a small piece of the life you are building. People notice this more than you realize. They see the difference between someone who wanders and someone who walks with direction. Purpose does not require grand announcements or dramatic gestures. It shows itself in simple consistency. It shows in the person who keeps their promises, who finishes what they start, who approaches their goals with patience rather than panic. There is strength in this kind of living because it removes confusion from your path. When you know why you are doing something, the noise of doubt begins to fade. You do not need to chase every opportunity or react to every distraction. Your direction becomes your compass, guiding your energy toward things that truly deserve your attention. And people respect this kind of clarity. They may not always say it aloud, but they feel it. They sense that you are someone who does not move randomly through the world. You are someone who understands that actions carry weight and because of that, you choose them carefully. Living with purpose also means accepting responsibility for the path you walk. It means standing behind your decisions instead of blaming circumstances when things become difficult. That kind of accountability creates trust. Others begin to see you as reliable, steady, and grounded in your values. When your life is guided by intention, your presence becomes more powerful than you might expect. Your words carry more meaning because they are supported by your actions. Your plans feel more believable because people see the discipline behind them. Respect grows naturally around a person whose steps are guided by purpose. In the end, acting with purpose is not about perfection. It is about awareness. It is about choosing your direction instead of letting the world choose it for you. And when every step you take carries that quiet intention, people begin to look at you differently because they recognize a strength that cannot be easily shaken. There comes a moment in every life when a person must decide whose voice will guide their steps. For many, the world becomes a crowded place of opinions. Everyone has something to say about how you should live, how you should speak, how you should dream. Some will praise you when you please them, and some will criticize you when you refuse to bend. And if you spend your life chasing approval from every direction, you will find yourself exhausted, stretched thin by expectations that were never yours to carry. The truth is simple, though it is not always easy to accept. Not everyone will understand you, and not everyone is meant to. People see the world through the narrow windows of their own experiences, their fears, and their beliefs. What feels right to you may confuse someone else. What inspires you may threaten another. If you allow every opinion to shape your path, your life will begin to feel less like a journey and more like a performance. There is a quiet strength in the person who learns to detach from this endless search for approval. It does not mean you become careless or unkind. It simply means you understand that your value is not determined by applause. You stop measuring your worth by how comfortable other people feel with your choices. Instead, you begin listening more closely to your own conscience, to the steady voice within that knows what aligns with your truth. When you free yourself from the need to be liked by everyone, something remarkable happens. Your decisions become clearer. Your actions become more honest. You no longer waste precious energy trying to explain yourself to those who have already decided not to understand. And in that freedom, your confidence begins to grow, not the loud kind that seeks attention, but the quiet kind that stands firm even when the room is full of disagreement. People often respect this more than they admit. There is something powerful about a person who is not easily swayed by every passing opinion. It signals independence of mind, a kind of inner stability that cannot be shaken by a few raised eyebrows or whispered judgments. While others may chase validation, you walk forward with calm certainty, guided by principles rather than popularity. Detaching from approval also protects your peace. When you are no longer living for applause, criticism loses much of its power. You understand that praise and blame are both temporary echoes in the larger story of your life. What remains constant is the integrity with which you live each day. And integrity, once people recognize it, becomes a source of deep respect. They may not always agree with your choices, but they cannot ignore the courage it takes to stand by them. Your independence begins to speak for itself, quietly but clearly, like a steady drumbeat beneath the noise of the crowd. So let the world have its opinions. Let people misunderstand you if they must. You were not born to be perfectly approved by everyone who crosses your path. You were born to live with honesty, with conviction, and with a spirit that does not tremble at the thought of disapproval. When you release the need for constant validation, you step into a freedom that few people ever truly experience, and that freedom carries a respect that no applause could ever equal. There is a special kind of strength in a person who understands the value of silence. Not the silence of fear, not the silence of weakness, but the silence that comes from deep self-control. In a world where everyone feels the need to respond immediately, to defend themselves instantly, To fill every moment with noise, the person who knows how to pause holds a rare kind of power. Silence, when chosen wisely, becomes a language of its own. Many people believe that respect is earned by speaking quickly and proving their point with force. They rush to explain themselves, rush to correct others, rush to win every small argument that crosses their path. But the truth is that constant reaction often weakens a person's presence. When someone feels the need to respond to everything, their words begin to lose their weight. Their voice becomes part of the noise rather than something people truly listen to. The person who owns their silence moves differently. When challenged, they do not immediately rush to defend themselves. When confronted with criticism, they do not always feel the need to argue. Instead, they pause, they listen, they observe the moment with calm awareness, and that pause alone can change the entire tone of a conversation, because silence often makes others reflect on their own words. There is also wisdom in understanding that not every situation deserves your voice. Some misunderstandings fade on their own if you simply allow time to pass. Some arguments lose their power when they are not fed with more words. And some people reveal their true character more clearly when you give them the space to keep speaking while you remain quiet. Owning your silence does not mean you have nothing to say. It means you have learned the discipline of choosing the right moment to say it. When you finally do speak, your words carry a calm authority because they were not born from impatience. They were shaped by thought. They were held back until they truly mattered. People notice this kind of composure. In heated moments when others are raising their voices and rushing through sentences, the quiet person in the room often becomes the most powerful presence. Their calmness slows the energy around them. Their silence creates a space where people begin to listen more carefully. There is dignity in not reacting to every insult or every challenge. Sometimes silence says more than any clever response ever could. It shows that your peace is more valuable than proving a point. It shows that you are not easily pulled into emotional storms created by others. And when you master this ability, your words begin to carry greater meaning. Because people understand that when you choose to speak, it is not careless, it is intentional. They listen differently because they know your voice does not appear in every moment. Silence, then, becomes more than the absence of sound. It becomes a symbol of control, patience, and inner balance. The person who owns their silence shows the world that strength is not always loud. Sometimes the strongest presence in the room is the one that pauses, breathes, and understands that quiet confidence can echo louder than 1,000 hurried words. There is a quiet truth about respect that many people discover only after years of disappointment. Words alone rarely convince anyone of who you truly are. Promises can be spoken in a moment, declarations can be made with passion, and intentions can sound beautiful when they are wrapped in confident language. But the world has learned to listen carefully because it has seen too many promises fade like smoke in the wind. In the end, people do not measure you by what you say you will do. They measure you by what you repeatedly do. A person who constantly speaks about their plans but never follows them begins to lose credibility without even noticing it. Each unfulfilled promise becomes a small crack in the foundation of trust. Over time, those cracks grow wider, and eventually people stop taking their words seriously. It is not cruelty, it is simply human nature. Respect grows slowly, and it depends on reliability more than excitement. The person who allows their actions to speak moves differently. They do not rush to announce every intention or advertise every goal. Instead, they work quietly. They take small steps forward again and again, even when nobody is watching. Their focus is not on impressing people with grand speeches, but on building something real with patience and discipline. Consistency becomes their language. When they say they will do something, they follow through. When they make a commitment, they honor it. When they face challenges, they do not disappear or invent excuses. They continue moving forward with steady determination. And over time, people begin to notice that this person's words and actions walk in the same direction. Integrity lives in this alignment. It is the quiet agreement between what you believe, what you say, and what you actually do. When those three things match, a powerful kind of trust begins to form around you. Others start to feel that they can rely on you, not because you demanded their belief, but because your behavior proved it again and again. What makes this kind of strength remarkable is that it does not need constant recognition. The person who lives with integrity does not perform goodness for applause. They simply live by their values, even when it would be easier to compromise them. They keep their standards steady, whether people are watching or not. Over time, this steady pattern creates a reputation that speaks louder than any speech. When your name appears in a conversation, people remember the reliability of your actions. They remember the promises you kept. They remember the quiet determination you showed when things were difficult. That memory becomes your true introduction in the world, and this is why actions carry such power. Words may inspire, but actions prove. Words may create hope, but actions build trust. When your life begins to reflect consistency and honesty, respect begins to follow naturally. In the end, the most convincing statement you can ever make is not spoken with your voice. It is written through your behavior, day after day, decision after decision. When you allow your actions to speak with clarity and integrity, people no longer need explanations about who you are. They can already see it in the way you live. There is a difference, a subtle but powerful difference between confidence and arrogance. One is quiet and steady, while the other is loud and restless. Confidence does not need to announce itself, does not need to stand on a stage and demand attention. It simply exists, like a calm river flowing with certainty. Arrogance, on the other hand, often shouts to be seen because deep inside it is searching for validation. And people, whether they admit it or not, can feel the difference almost instantly. A confident person walks into a room with ease. Their shoulders are relaxed, their voice is steady, and their presence feels natural rather than forced. They are not trying to prove that they are better than anyone else. They are simply comfortable being who they are. This comfort sends a quiet message to everyone around them. I know my worth, and I do not need to compete for space. That message alone earns a level of respect that arrogance can never achieve. Arrogance often tries to disguise itself as strength, but it usually reveals insecurity instead. The arrogant person interrupts others, speaks as if their ideas are the only ideas that matter, and treats every conversation like a contest that must be won. At first, this behavior may appear powerful, but over time it pushes people away. Respect cannot grow in the shadow of pride that belittles others. Confidence, however, does something different. It allows room for other voices. A confident person can listen without feeling threatened. They can admit when they do not know something without feeling smaller. They can appreciate the strengths of others without fearing that it will somehow diminish their own. This balance creates an atmosphere of calm authority. People feel comfortable around them, yet they also recognize a quiet strength that should not be underestimated. Projecting confidence also means carrying yourself with dignity in both success and failure. When things go well, you remain humble, understanding that growth is always a continuing journey. When things go wrong, you accept responsibility and learn from the moment rather than hiding behind excuses. This steadiness builds a reputation that people trust. There is also grace in how a confident person treats others. They do not try to shine by dimming someone else's light. Instead, they understand that true strength does not require comparison. They encourage, they uplift, and they respect the dignity of those around them. And in doing so, They create a presence that people admire rather than resent. The truth is that real confidence grows quietly from self-awareness. It comes from knowing your values, understanding your abilities, and accepting your imperfections without shame. It is not about pretending to be flawless. It is about standing firmly in who you are, without exaggeration and without apology. When you learn to project this kind of confidence, people begin to respond differently. They listen more carefully to your words. They observe the calm assurance in your behavior. They sense that you are someone who does not need to pretend, someone who does not need to dominate the room to be respected. And that is the delicate line that separates presence from pretense. Confidence invites respect because it is grounded in authenticity. Arrogance demands attention but rarely earns admiration. When your strength is rooted in humility and self-respect, your presence becomes powerful in the most natural way, and people recognize it without you ever having to declare it. There is a quiet strength in the person who does not allow every feeling to control their actions. Emotions are a natural part of being human. Anger rises, frustration appears, disappointment visits when things do not unfold the way we hoped. Yet the difference between a person who is respected and one who is constantly dismissed often lies in a single ability: the power to pause before reacting. Many people move through life guided by impulse. When they feel anger, they speak immediately. When they feel insulted, they react without reflection. When something goes wrong, their frustration spills into the room like a sudden storm. In those moments, they may feel powerful, but the truth is that they have handed control of themselves to the situation. And people notice this loss of control more quickly than they notice the anger itself. The person who masters self-control moves differently through these moments. When emotions rise, they do not rush to release them. Instead, they breathe, they observe, and they allow a small space to exist between feeling and action. That space is where strength lives. It is the moment where wisdom quietly asks, "What response will truly serve me here?" Self-control does not mean suppressing emotions until they disappear. It means understanding them without allowing them to become your master. Anger can be acknowledged without turning into harsh words. Disappointment can be felt without turning into bitterness. The person who practices this discipline becomes steady, even when the world around them becomes chaotic. People are naturally drawn to this steadiness. In difficult moments, when others are raising their voices or reacting without thought, the calm person in the room becomes a center of gravity. Their restraint carries a kind of authority that cannot be easily ignored. Others begin to trust their judgment because they know it is not clouded by sudden emotion. This control also protects your dignity. Words spoken in anger often travel farther than we expect, and once they are released, they cannot be gathered back. A moment of uncontrolled reaction can damage relationships, opportunities, and reputations that took years to build. The person who understands this learns the value of patience. They realize that a few seconds of silence can prevent hours of regret. There is also confidence hidden inside restraint. When you do not feel the need to react instantly, you show that your emotions are not pulling your strings. You show that you are strong enough to remain calm even when tested. This calmness sends a message without needing to say a single word. Over time, this habit of self-control becomes part of your presence. People begin to recognize that you are not easily provoked, not easily shaken. They may challenge you, question you, or even try to provoke a reaction, but your steady composure reveals a deeper strength. And that is why restraint is magnetic. It shows maturity, clarity, and inner discipline. It reveals a person who understands that true power does not come from reacting to everything that happens. True power comes from choosing when and how to respond. When you master this quiet control, you begin to move through life with a calm authority. Situations no longer push you in every direction. Instead, you remain grounded, thoughtful, and deliberate. And people, whether they realize it or not, begin to respect the strength it takes to hold that kind of control within yourself.